I returned to my office after brushing my teeth. My lunch consisted of sausage with peppers and onions and a side of garlic fries. A serious no-no, on several levels, but still. So damn good. My intercom buzzed. I pressed the answer button after a huge belch and laughed. It would have made my brothers proud. Yes, Marta, I called. Dr. Fields, your 1 o'clock has arrived, she efficiently informed. Thank you, Marta. Send them in, please. I popped in a mint, grabbed my recorder, and checked my calendar, failing to recall the name of the new patient. On the cusp of blaming my pregnancy brain, I nodded, staring at the appointment list, remembering they wanted to remain unidentified until our meeting. Noting they scheduled 3 hours of my time, I wondered who was going to walk through the door. I moved near the entrance and waited. After a brief knock, the door opened, and I frowned with confusion, knowing that rap well. Matthew Oliver Cannon moved toward me, smiling. He kissed my cheek in greeting and escorted me to the recliner I usually chose during his sessions. Toad, why did you make an anonymous appointment with me? Well, he answered with a sheepish expression. I wanted to save face in case this plan failed. That surprised me. I lowered and waited for him to do so across from me and studied him. His expression was stressed as he typed fast on his cell. You were worried about failure? Matthew frowned. I guess. Well, yeah. I found out something, and now I need the tail end of the story. I know you can draw it out. Rather, them. All parties involved are in town at the same time, finally, and when I realized it, I made the appointment. You can get anyone to open up, Amy Victoria Reed Fields, and I need these people to sing better than a canary. Knowing what he's asking, I sighed. I'm sure neither is willing to reveal anything at this point. Or, at any time. Neither wants to be tossed in jail, Matthew. We all knew from Marcus' tone and words at the first session that something had happened that would incriminate someone. Not May will. I have to know, Vic. Now giving me a pleading expression, Matthew reasoned, and maybe they'll benefit from releasing it. You don't think they've discussed it amongst themselves even once since the incident and promised to stay quiet no matter what? I have no idea, and honestly, I don't care. I want to know what happened, and only they can tell me. If it benefits either of them, all the better. And if something happened that could be tracked, then I need to know and decide what to do about it before the wrong people find out, including the authorities. I don't want either participant incarcerated, and I need to take steps to ensure that does not happen. I silently studied him. You truly need this, don't you? He stared, nodding. I do, Vic, and though they don't realize it, so do they. I silently studied him. I'd never seen him tense and filled with anxiety and stress, unless his wife was in labor or a loved one was ill. Understanding, I nodded, accepting. Very well. How do you want to go about this, Matthew? Just be you and pull it out of them, the way you can and have. Vic, dissect whatever they tell you if you feel it's questionable. I've texted them, and all said they were on their way. I moved to the desk. Fine. But no promises. I agreed and instructed Marta to allow all who arrived in the next moments to enter straight away, and there were to be no other interruptions. I leaned against the back of my seat, trying not to predict how this was going to go. As I waited for the others to arrive, I became concerned about one's reaction to this impromptu summit. I knew he was not going to take it well and possibly show his anger and become reticent. Soon a knock sounded and the door opened. Hi, Vicky. What's wrong? Asked Dr. Robert Brand with a hint of concern. Toad, he greeted. He kissed my cheek, and then I gestured for him to sit. He frowned at the couch, but didn't move. What's the emergency? Rob asked. Are you feeling pain or another discomfort, Vic? No, Rob, I'm good. He worriedly checked my pulse and forehead while asking, Are you sure? I am. I promise, I smiled, hoping it was reassuring. If I weren't, I'd call for an appointment or go to the emergency room. Convinced, he finally sat. Another knock. Dr. Pedro Garza entered my office with a worried expression. I feel great, I assured Pete after his inquiry about my health in Spanish. He also checked my pulse. I stilled his hands. I haven't felt this good in months, I promise. Please sit. He lowered into the chair on the right of the couch, and all the men nodded as a greeting to one another. My door opened again, and Marcus strolled in, doggedly, looking as worried as the others. "Hi, Marcus." "I'm fine," I insisted before he could say a word. "Please, have a seat with the others." Frowning, he turned to the couch and addressed Matthew, Rob, and Pedro with Toad, Sammy, Pete with, "What's going on? What's with the Rockford text?" "Not yet," Matthew sighed. "One more. Have a seat, Marcus." Puzzled, Marcus lowered to the center of the couch, between Matthew and Rob. I returned to the recliner and lowered, my back appreciating the gesture. Several long, silent minutes later, there was a knock. The men rose, and I smiled when the newest visitor to my office entered. "Blossom, please come in." Evelyn Turner Collins grinned as she entered and elegantly squatted next to my chair to kiss my cheek. "I got Toad's text, Pumpkin. Are you ill?" She gently caressed my belly. "Is the little one giving you trouble?" "We're well, thanks. Have a seat." Evelyn panned the room and stood. "Gentlemen, what's going on?" she asked, frowning at the males in the room. "Were you all Rockford texted, also?" All the men, aside from Matthew, murmured affirmation. "Sit, Evie," Matthew ordered, gesturing to a seat. "And I'll explain." On the couch were Evelyn, Marcus, and Rob. Matthew lowers next to me in a wing chair. Marcus studied the room and shook his head. "No one has to explain. I think I know why we were all summoned here today." Rob, Pete, and Evelyn turned to him expectantly. Pete asked and, ignoring him, Marcus muttered, "No, Matthew." "Why not, Cramp?" Matthew sighed and demanded, "Why are you still hiding? Why are you still persisting? This doesn't concern you." Angered, Matthew shouted, "Everything about my entire family concerns me, from every aspect. I have a right to know what went on, and I hate that I'm the only one who couldn't help my little brother when he needed it. George and I need to tie up all the loose ends, if there are any, and only you four can tell us where to look and what for, and that's why I needed you all to be here. Talk, for goodness sake." Marcus defiantly shook his head.
"No."
"God damn it," Matthew roared. He moved to a window and angrily punched the wall. I stared at him, wondering how to calm him. Calling Madison was a possibility. She would be able to soothe her husband in seconds. As I considered getting out of my comfortable seat to get my cell, Robert Brand leaned forward, folded his hands tightly, and inquired, "What do you know already, Matthew?" "Rob," Marcus barked. "Not one word," Rob scoffed. "Answer me, Matthew." Holding the window's edge, Matthew sighed hard. Daria Hull was struck in an alleyway in Burbank. She died several hours later in a hospital, and the details were omitted. George is in a strop because he can't find anything else, and he could find Hoffa in minutes if he tried. The discarded report he did find with the accident listed is now missing. Outside of you four, no one knows for certain that Daria died from a car accident and not from an aneurysm, as her COD is listed on her certificate. Frowning, I asked, "What's worrying you, Matthew?" "That questionable final report. Too many discrepancies, for one, and two, there were no notes from any physician, just an ME. Even that was muddled and rushed. Why? And what happened to the original? Why did it suddenly vanish?" They quieted and stared back and forth. "I don't know what happened," Evelyn said softly. "She got a few licks in, and my eyes were burning from the dirt she kicked in them. Someone guided me to her, when I went half-blind, and when I made her out, I beat her ass. After I was sure she had had enough, and wasn't going to come at me again, I was helped to the car, and everyone made suggestions on what to do next." Matthew turned and glared at his sister. "You're leaving out something, Evelyn. What are you not telling us?" "I'm honestly not holding back," she sighed and quieted. I shook my head at Matthew, believing that was all Evie knew and that he needed to question the men. "Rob," Matthew called. Before he could answer, Marcus demanded, "Why now, Matthew?" "This has been plaguing me since our first session, and like I said, I hit a wall. I don't do walls, and you know that, Marcus, and neither does George. You're all finally in town at the same time due to Pete's orientation with the clinic and hospital. Now is the perfect time to fill me in before he goes back to Arizona on Thursday." He won't be back until he starts here, and I can't wait a minute longer. We have to resolve this now, or I will go insane. That can't happen since I have 5 kids to raise, and I don't ever want either of them to see their father drooling in his soup because he couldn't get to the bottom of the mess that nearly destroyed an uncle and blew up his marriage. Marcus blew out a hard breath and glared at the floor while deep in thought. It's been long enough, Marcus, Rob insisted. He and Evelyn deserve to know what happened after the fight. I disagree, Rob, Marcus snapped. Both could be implicated in.
No.
There are enough people whose freedom is at risk as it is. I don't need to worry about another brother and my sisters as well. There's always a way, Marcus, Pete asserted. I mean, there's something somewhere about the story. If you don't tell him, something will. We'll always be at risk, so maybe Matthew can do something to prevent compromising our freedom. If there is anyone we can trust, it is indeed him, not to mention Victoria. They're all silent again. I grunted as I stood and blew out a strong breath. Perhaps this, I breathed, making them all turn to me. I moved to my desk, pulled my wallet from my purse, and grabbed a 5. Matthew is a licensed attorney. I'm your doctor, and that will doubly protect the room. Matthew, I called, holding up the bill. Is this sufficient to retain you for 3 hours? Matthew stared, then nodding, he walked to me and took the bill. Marcus, Pete, Rob, Evelyn? Unbelievable, Rob muttered, going into his pocket. Ethan charges $1, but this leech wants a whole 5. Like I can afford that insane amount of money. I can, Pete snorted. Since the sales of the houses in Arizona, I find myself with a load of cash. My wife and I have no idea what to do with the extra $57. 52, now, Rob chuckled. Evelyn and I giggled. Pete handed Matthew $5, then Evelyn passed him a 10 and snatched my 5 from his hand. Cheap ass, Matthew grumbled. Gotta get gas when I leave here, she informed, smirking at her brother. $5 may get me home. We laughed and turned to Marcus, who crossed his arms. No, was his adamant response. Everyone scoffed. Rob gestured to the wing chair. Matthew turned expectantly to me, and once I settled into the recliner, he sat and Rob nodded to Pete. It was me who helped Evelyn with her eyes after the fight, Pete began. That puta kicked at Evelyn, and there was loose dirt on or under her shoes, and it went to Evelyn's face. Still, Evelyn managed to beat her with irritated, red eyes. Marcus checked her right after, but Evie insisted she was fine, so Rob turned her toward that woman. She immediately struck Evie, who beat her ass more, and that was all your sister did that day, Matthew. The woman hit her first, both times, and I'd swear that in any courtroom. It's truth. After the fight, Evie got in the car with us, and we drove to a pharmacy for pure water and something to help with her eyes, then took her to the hotel room we were checked into before meeting that puta, so that Evie could clean up before going home and not have to answer questions about her appearance. Okay, Matthew mumbled. Did you have any bruises, Evie? Did Mother or Dad notice anything? Yeah, there was purpling under my cheekbone, but I said I had to practice and they bought that and Mommy gave me ice. I see. What happened next? Rob continued. Evelyn lay on her back in the rear of the rental, holding a wet rag to her eyes. Pete and I watched Marcus check on that woman to make sure she was breathing. He also called an ambulance because, as he said, if any of it got back to us, we wouldn't be charged with murder. He wanted her found and treated, and that would be the end of the whole situation. Pete glanced at a silent, seething, glaring Marcus. Did you use your cell, Marcus? An irritated Matthew snapped. He said nothing. No, Rob answered. He bought a prepaid at the airport. Matthew nodded. Go on, someone. We got in the cars. Marcus was driving one and Rob the other and what? Matthew loudly demanded at Pete's shutoff. She had this look, Pete continued. Daria, it was damn near maniacal. And I shouted, curious as all hell. Daria sat upright, her nose and lips bloodied, and turning every damn shade of purple invented, Marcus shouted, startling us. He gruffly gave Matthew a $5 bill. She stood, and with this, she made this overly insane-sounding laugh, and said, You think this is over? I know you, Marcus Cannon. I know everything about you and your holier-than-thou family, including that bitch sister of yours. Your other brother just might be next with me, and maybe I'll give dear old dad a toss, too, since he loves to play with those who are not his wife. Your little brother will not be getting off so easily. He responded to me, and I have proof. Gripping that bill, Matthew scowled tightly at Marcus. I ignored her. What kind of proof could that bitch possibly have? If she said anything, she'd be arrested, as she should have been. I was fine with her getting a beat down, then letting it drop, because incarceration would have been too good for her. But no matter what, if Daria said anything about the events with Joshua, I guess you can call it that, then she was only going to cause him even more humiliation and pain and get herself thrown in jail. I don't think she cared. Marcus leaned forward. The alley was a dead end. Rob backed up the car successfully, and then I did the same. When we left the alley, she was alive, but on the ground. Shaking my head, I glared at Marcus, who concentrated on the floor. He was lying or leaving something out, and he was not hiding it well. Marcus backed out first, Rob countered. He got to the mouth of the alley, and having had enough of that day and all that woman said and did, I floored the pedal.
Lies.
Evelyn gasped, holding her mouth. Pete, she whispered. What did you see or hear? Anything? Just tires peeling followed by a loud, sickening thud, he grated. My focus was on you and your eyes, and all I remember is that. I hit her with the car, Rob stated softly, interrupting Pete. Marcus shouted at Rob. Damn it all. Marcus, Rob snapped. I hit her with the car. Shaking my head, I snorted.
No, you didn't, Rob. He frowned at me.
Yes, I did. I hit her with that rental car. You did not, I scoffed. Marcus hit her with his car. Rob became heated. You weren't even there, Vic. Why would you say? No, it was me. I did it. Shaking my head, I countered. Marcus got to the mouth of the alley and then you floored it in a rental? Itfin. Everyone blinked at me. Rob, you got to the mouth of the alley because you backed out first. Marcus, seething, floored his car moments after your car cleared the exit. Matthew asked, why do you think that's the way it played out, Vic? Still holding Rob's gaze, I deduced, you come from working-class parents, Rob. No matter who rented the car, you'd never do something so reckless, regardless of the circumstances. Marcus was conceived a billionaire, and due to his maturity, he's had access to millions since his 18th birthday, so a wrecked vehicle wouldn't cause him any financial worry. However, you would fret, Rob, and since you are a deep thinker, you'd worry yourself sick over how you'd pay for the damage. You always drive carefully, regardless of the situation, and that day, you had to choose another way to manage your anger. As a result, especially with passengers in the rental, one of whom was already hurt, you backed out safely. Marcus floored his car with only himself in it, thus risking only his safety in the process. Well, he was the only one there whose well-being wasn't a concern to him. My observation is met with silence. By then, Matthew finally added, he was already in that I ain't ever getting married, so I don't care about my future mentality. If something did happen to him, he believed it wouldn't alter the future much. I nodded. Exactly, but still, why, Marcus? No more lies. Why did you floor that car? What sparked that action? He stayed quiet for a moment, studying my face. After a deep breath, he cleared his throat. I wanted to leave quickly. I still felt so much anger at that woman and didn't. I had no clue as to what to do with it. I decided my sister needed to go to the room we rented, and I had to buy her some new clothes, so Mother wouldn't see her all disheveled the way she was after that fight. He stayed quiet for a moment, studying my face. After a deep breath, he cleared his throat. I frowned. Why was that a concern, her appearance? Evelyn softly answered, because Mommy hates to see females in disarray, regardless of her standing. The day I came to live with her, she said her first rule would be to always keep myself up, no matter what, because a woman should always look her best. She feels better, confident when she does, hence the hair appointments and constant shopping she and I did. Marcus squeezed her hand. Evelyn held his with her other. I slowly reversed, thinking of going to the gym after making sure Evelyn was taken care of, because I needed to release all the tension and anger I was holding. As I backed out, that being screamed, He'll pay. You'll all pay. But not more than our baby. I discharged a long, hard gasp and stared. I wanted the rest of that story. I had to get away from her and not wanting to do anything to get arrested for. Yeah, I floored it without a care in the world. Marcus growled to the ceiling. She flung herself at the back of my car, and I think she did the moment I dropped the pedal, and that's... Marcus sighed hard. That's the thud Pete heard. I swallowed and asked, she threw herself at the car? She did, Marcus confirmed. Like she was using the last of the energy she had to do it. She wanted to cause damage to something, and herself was good enough, I guess. And you've been hearing that sound ever since. Marcus didn't answer. Evelyn gripped his hand and pleaded with him to continue. Rob re-entered the alley. I braked within inches of the rental car, got out of mine, and Rob met me at the rear. Daria was lying on the ground, between my car and a brick building, barely breathing, but still taunting me, in this raspy, pained voice. I sighed. He still heard that, too. What was she saying to you, Marcus? Evelyn wept. She said the baby was Joshua's and she wanted to cause him pain. She'd already made sure he'd find out he had made a child at 12, but she didn't say how. It's his, you know. If I wanted to be a mother, I'd have this baby and take all his money in the process. I hate the idea of being pregnant, but I'd go through it just to pass that kid to him and make him raise it. How do you think he'd handle raising a baby at 12? He deserves pain, and he will get it.
Wait.
You'll see. I swear you'll see. You'll all see. The world will know what that boy did to me. He's going to pay. You all will. The canon name won't mean anything anymore.
Spit on all of you.
He quieted. I watched him, wondering what else had happened. All his points were valid, and I agreed with them, but still, he was not telling us everything. I decided to let him be for the moment. Okay. Sighing, I asked, what went on outside that car?
Rob?
Rob's whole person shook. I thought. When I got out of the car, I didn't know she claimed to be pregnant, but still, I didn't want her to die. I just knew Marcus purposely hit her with that car, and I didn't want him to go to jail. I pressed on the wound. Enough, Marcus shouted, standing abruptly. She's dead, and Joshua's been safe since. All that's been done is done, and no one misses that bitch. We're done. Let's go, Rob. I watched Marcus rush to the door and shouted after him. Looks like we finally know where Joshua got that running thing from. I'm not running, Vic. I've had enough. This entire session wasn't necessary. What is this going to solve? She was bleeding, Rob whispered. And she started her next tirade. Blood spilled like a fountain stream, but she wouldn't shut up, breathless as she was, and her voice was grating. Now, understanding exactly what she was saying, I released the pressure and allowed her to bleed out, Pete asked. Yes, Rob exhaled. I watched the blood seep out and saw her life ending. And still, I did nothing to stop it and fought Marcus when he tried to help her. I didn't want her to survive. Damn it, Rob, we agreed. You were supposed to keep quiet. We weren't ever supposed to talk about that incident. True, but this is still pressing on my head, and I needed to release it somewhere. I've spent my life bringing babies into the world, trying to make up for the life she purposely killed, and she wanted to further harm a 12-year-old she had already ripped to shreds and gave him a goddamn STD. I just could not. Do you feel better now that you have freed this, Rob? I asked. No, Rob confessed, holding his head. And I doubt I ever will. Nothing I do or accomplish ever feels enough, and I can't discharge the guilt. Maybe I'll need to feel it forever. Rob, I softly called. You saw her plunge into that car, didn't you? He nods, shuddering. I was watching for Marcus to drive out, and when his tires peeled, I saw. It still haunts my dreams. All the more reason to have left it in the past, Marcus snapped, dropping in his seat. Happy now, Toad? Don't pick on him, Marcus, Evelyn shouted. He should know everything, as well as me. And that's not all of it, I informed, staring at Marcus. Excuse me? How did Rob let go? Marcus. Silence. Did you fight him?
Glaring now.
Marcus?
Still nothing.
I had to jump out of the car to separate them, Pete said, rubbing his face. We could hear the sirens, Evelyn and I, and they were fighting like they had stolen one another's wallets. I forced Rob into the car and ordered Marcus into his. We had to get out of there before the authorities arrived. I hurried to the driver's seat and floored it. "How close?" Evelyn asked. "Goddamn seconds," Pete gruffly answered. I was caught by a light. I braked and saw them speed into that alley. I checked the mirror and saw Marcus behind us, seething. We went straight to the hotel. Marcus arrived later with the things for Evelyn. Then he showered and changed and angrily left us, saying he'd return after he finished with Joshua. At the first session, Matthew murmured, "You stopped Joshua from saying what you told him, Marcus. What did you say to calm him?" "Damn," Marcus sighed. "All I said was that my friends and I took care of everything, and I promised she'd never come after him again." There were no specifics. I couldn't chance that with him, fragile as he was in that time frame. "Rob," I called in a quiet moment. "Why did you push Marcus away from her?" Marcus shook his head.
He didn't.
I sternly called his name again. Honestly, the man was getting on my last nerve. Scowling, I turned back to Rob. Shook his head at Marcus, then looked my way. The last thing any 12-year-old needs is to become a parent. She couldn't survive and throw that on his young self. He needed to live, become something like he did, even with that horrible memory. He didn't ask her to show him any adult act. She was beyond wrong for all she did to him. Not with, too. Evelyn sniffed and added, "Joshua never forgot that experience. She brainwashed him, and it almost destroyed his marriage." Rob continued, "I pushed Marcus away to make sure that baby didn't make it, and she was a consequence. I didn't start her descent into hell, but I made sure. I wanted that kid gone, as she did, and I didn't think anyone would believe that Marcus wasn't responsible for that car hitting her. I was thinking an exam would show exactly what she claimed, and he'd be implicated." All quieted again. I pondered Rob's words and couldn't decide what I felt about the whole thing. I mean, the circumstances were indeed awful, and Joshua had paid enough for her treachery, but this was a human life, possibly two. This was an impossible situation. An irritated Matthew glared at them. In a low snarl, he said, "You called that woman on the premise of buying drugs and lured her to that alley, where she taunted a juvenile and said juvenile beat the crap out of her. The juvenile suffered a minor injury and was placed in a safe vehicle after the altercation was over. The victim, and I use that term loosely, then goaded an adult male. He tried not to react and instead chose to leave the scene, and the victim threw herself at the rear of the vehicle, causing herself life-threatening harm while still managing to taunt others. An adult male attempted to stop her bleeding but stopped and forcibly moved another when he attempted to take over, and the two fought over the action. All able-bodied participants fled the scene, with the victim still breathing but exsanguinating. Did I leave anything out? All shake their heads. Do you all realize how many different fucking offenses you committed that day? What the hell were you thinking?" Even I flinched at Matthew's shout. He paced angrily in front of Rob, Evelyn, Marcus, and Pete, with heaving breaths. All of them appeared to have swallowed from the fountain of youth and become disciplined children. Obviously, neither of you gave a thought on anything that goddamn day. If you were caught at that scene, none of you would be as far as you are in your careers or lives. Where would your spouses and children be today had you spent time locked up? Would you even be out of jail now? Who knows what the hell you would have been charged with, so that's beyond iffy. You ever thought about that, either of you? I guess we should chalk up that stupid crap to you all being 19 and 20. But damn it, Evelyn, our only sister at the time, was only 15. I cannot believe the stupid risks the three of you took with her. Mother would have been so torn if two of her children had records or spent time in jail, especially for that kind of bull. Did you even think of her at any point in this mess? Joshua was in trouble, Evelyn snapped. How else was I supposed to handle my oldest brother calling to tell me some bitch had hurt my baby brother? Not to mention the fact that she gave him 2 STIs when she raped him, and no child deserves to go through that, including my siblings and especially my 12-year-old baby brother. How the hell did you ever think he could go to either of our parents with any of that, Matthew? Damn it. He tried you, but you were out enjoying life. Try that on. Of course, that's popped in my head, Marcus. I heard what you were called during the first session, but still, you should have gone to the parents when you hit town. God, the chances you took. Matthew shook his head. You risked so much, all of you. Tell me you got rid of that phone. Marcus nodded. Wiped it first. Leaning forward, he dropped his elbows on his knees and rubbed his temples. After we left the doctor's office, I bought Joshua some food so he could start the antibiotics, and I tossed it in their oil bin. And I used cash to buy minutes. At least something was done correctly that day, Matthew snorted. But who covered it up? What happened to the paper trail? Matthew frowned my way. It had to be the Prestons. They would have been the most affected if any of her behavior with Joshua was learned. She had several drugs in her system, and I think that's why they went with the aneurysm. They'd want it covered and buried with her. Maybe, Matthew, but since you couldn't let it go, Rob and I are even more vulnerable and in danger of losing our freedom due to our part in that whole debacle. And yeah, I didn't care about mine then, but now he and I have wives and kids. What if this is found out by the authorities? God damn it, Marcus. If you can't trust the 4 people in this room with you, then why do you even speak to us? Matthew shouted. What has either of us done to make you believe we'd rat you out? Or Rob? You should have said something to me years ago so that I could make sure it all stayed covered. I trust everyone in here, Matthew, Marcus snapped. But foolishness happens. How secure is this room? Can we trust Vicky's assistant, who is sitting just outside that door? What about monitors? Recording devices? Lurkers, fool. Anyone could have heard this conversation. Ever heard of blackmail? This is why Rob's always been near, Evelyn surmised. You kept him close as what? His protector? If he ever said anything or was implicated in some way, I would have helped him, even though I feel, even to this day, that he did nothing wrong. I let go, Rob insisted. Had I not, she'd be alive. Maybe. I raised a brow. There's no reason to believe there's truth to that, Rob. Besides, did you really think you were qualified to do anything to save her? I used my jacket to press on her neck and slowed the bleeding. If I'd kept that pressure on there, I countered, you were a 19-year-old college undergraduate who probably learned to apply pressure to an open wound from a television show. Pete assured him, and she caused her own demise. I could have done nothing more, Rob, Evelyn insisted. You're a doctor who has performed surgeries, so you know that to be nothing but the truth. I added, you had no clue as to the extent of her injuries, outside of the obvious. You know as well as I do how fast that ambulance got there, and she was already losing her life, Pete offered. There was nothing you could have done. Nothing. You are a good friend and a hell of a physician, so I'm telling you no more guilt. Daria Hull is dead because of her own doing, not Marcus, nor yours. This is now done. I nodded at Pete's words, agreeing. And for the record, Matthew said, pulling papers from his jacket pocket. This states that at autopsy, Daria was not and had never been pregnant. She lied or was given a false positive. Or wanted to torture you, Marcus, Sire deduced. Which she did. Still, I'm going with a lie. So, am I? Matthew agreed. There was bruising on the body consistent with being hit by a car, but she was dying anyway. She had a kidney disease and refused dialysis, and to get on the transplant list, she was not going to live another year at most. And she continued to use, like I said, there were several drugs in her system. The Prestons could not have any scandal right on the heels of Avery Preston being tossed out of Hollywood for his indiscretions and misbehaviors. If they had known what Daria had done with Joshua, I'm pretty sure he would have had her shipped out of the country
Marcus,
forever.
I called.
He stared at me with red eyes. You're all safe in every way, I promise. Marta can't hear a word while that door is closed. No one can from either. And Lillian made sure everything was soundproof on this floor. All the monitors were removed and so were the cameras, maybe a week ago. We're no longer allowed visual, but audio is allowed with permission, and I hadn't asked anyone. I turned my recorder his way. I never turned it on. Marcus nodded and released a sigh. I didn't mean to imply you would reveal what we discussed today. I smiled at him.
I know.
Does Mariah know about any of this, Marcus? He turned to his sister. Some, not all. She only knows about the accident, if you want to call it that, because of Donnie running out in the driveway when I was backing out. What happened? Rob asked. He was practicing his jump shots at the garage instead of on the court, and I didn't know he was there. I backed out and saw him at the last second. I lost my head. My heart raced, and I screamed at my son. Mariah heard me ranting. She rushed out, sent Donnie into the house, and pulled it out of me in the garage. I only told her I once hit a woman with my car. I never gave her details, and she never asked. I asked, even after that session? No, but in the car all she said was, "You'll tell me when you're ready," and it wasn't brought up again. Staring at her belly during the first session, I renewed my resolve to keep quiet about everything for my kids' sake and hers. I wanted and needed to keep everyone safe, including Evelyn, Pete, and Rob. And now, so many more are indirectly involved and shouldn't know any of it, including the two of you, Marcus said, pointing to Matthew and me. I think she's ready to hear it, I urged. As is everyone. Joshua, especially. I appreciate that you wanted to protect all of us, but you have to know that you are just as important to us as we are to you.
We need to know so that we can help in the shielding.
This is what family does, and that is what we all are and vowed to be. They nod at my statement. Marcus appeared to want to protest. Joshua has to know everything now. It's all sort of occurring again, Marcus, and he should know exactly what happened to that woman. I believe he can now handle it. It won't change anything, Vic. Maybe not, but it will help in his healing and the forgiving of himself. Joshua needs to admit he was raped, and he won't until he accepts what Daria Hull did to him. That man is full of guilt because he responded to her wiles and still doesn't understand why. How? Marcus asked after a moment. What should I do? Joshua and Mandy have a sit-down with someone from Matthew's office and a session with me on Friday. Be here, and you can tell him. A sit-down, Marcus asked Matthew. Neither of them can type, much like you, so Raquel will step in. Their words will be attached to the end of Vic's book, and everyone needs to consent to Raquel reading it. Book? Rob asked. I'll tell you later, I promised.
And you, Pete?
I just need to hammer out a few more things. Rob nodded, as did Pete. I have to talk to my wife first, Marcus sighed. That's it, right? Matthew answered, for now, but I will look into what Daria meant by making sure that all would know about her and Joshua. That's a fucking promise. Good. Standing, Marcus resolved, at the next family session, we'll tell everyone else, and after, I never want to hear her name or anything about this situation again, so long as I live. With a determined stride, Marcus left my office. Soon after giving me goodbyes, the others followed. I blew out a relieving breath as I called Tim. Hiya, sweetheart. Have you decided on dinner? No, babe, but I have a doozy for you, so we'd better pick up something and go home. It needs to be discussed in private. My husband immediately agreed. All right. I'll call in to Lila's. Grinning, I quickly said, spicy meatballs with garlic bread and spaghetti. We'll stop by Cavatappi's and get me some stuffed peppers for dessert. He chuckled. You got it. I waited to go home, wishing I could have a couple glasses of wine while Tim and I talked and had our dinner. Revealed the details about the day of his encounter with Daria Hull. Everyone became unusually silent. Come on, family, I sighed. No one has a thought, question, or comment. I went to see Mallory Preston yesterday, Matthew quietly informed. I nodded to Madison, who returned it and checked her watch. Blowing, I rubbed my belly. Everyone's attention was now on Matthew, but my focus was on a silent Joshua who wanted to make his private talk with Marcus his last on the subject, but understood everyone should know what happened, especially his mother. Jamie's mother? I asked. Matthew nodded. Catherine hastily asked, what did she have to say, honey? Shaking his head, Matthew revealed, she knew what Daria did to Joshua and had for years.
We gasped.
I concentrated on Matthew. Go on, Tim urged him. Mallory caught her sister slipping her son marijuana and had enough. The day they met up with her in that alley, they were waiting for her to return because Matthew sighed and shook his head. What? Stephen prodded. Go on, son, please. Matthew cleared his throat. Daria had written everything in her diary. Joshua inhaled. You know all now, don't you, Matthew? Matthew solemnly nodded. Joshua shook like a leaf. His wife Mandy rushed to him and wrapped her arms around him, while begging him to let it go and calm. "Oh, sweetheart," Catherine wept, holding her chest while staring at Joshua. "Whatever you now know, Matthew, keep it to yourself, please. I know enough. Too much. I can't handle anything else concerning that situation unless it will help in healing my baby." Agreed. Everyone snapped.
So do I.
Now, any other thoughts, questions, comments? I asked in my usual manner. "Please," Marcus sighed. "Get them all out now, because this will be the last I will ever speak on this subject." "I'm already done," Matthew insisted. "There was never a baby," Catherine asked. "No, mother," Matthew assured her. She lied. Daria had a partial hysterectomy at 14 due to growths on her ovaries. They were removed. There was no way she was ever getting pregnant, so I think she was just trying to get a rise out of Marcus. "And now, how is Rob? Why isn't he here?" I turned to Rachel. "He said he's breathing better. He's spoken with his wife and declined to join us, deciding to do therapy on their own, but will join you all later if needed." I nodded to Madison and panted. "Not needed," Marcus insisted. "I vote we're done. Please, let's bury this now." They studied one another, and I believed I saw resolution with all. Madison said to her husband one last thing. "I just want to know what happened to that fucking diary." Matthew, watching Joshua, answered, "I burned it." He looked at his wife and said, "Mallory gave it to me, and I read it in their living room. Afterward, I immediately tossed it into the lit fireplace, to Avery's detriment." I watched that book burn to ash, while Mallory explained why it upset her husband. She also claimed to have guilt over keeping that secret and participating in covering up her sister's actions and the cause of death. It's the reason she stuck with her husband after his antics were revealed. Avery knew of Daria's actions. He was warding it over his wife and hiding that diary until a housekeeper told Mallory of his secret safe. No one else has read that diary, and now we can rest assured that no one will. By insisting I read everything in that book and me burning it released her from his hold. He is not a happy camper. He was sued left and right and is now broke and living off her inheritance. She's not feeling generous with a stipend and doesn't have to be now. You'll hear of their separation after Mallory gets an ironclad NDA. There is shit in that diary about Avery and Daria with other humans that he does not want leaked. Nodding, I searched the faces of the group. None appeared to want to discuss this any further, and I was grateful to drop the subject permanently. I also have had enough of this topic, and especially that wench. "I only want to know one other thing," Nathan said, turning to Tom. "Why did you flake at the game the other night? Scared, maybe?" Tom scoffed. "Of?" Ethan guffawed, "Getting that ass spanked, of course." "Again?" Tom screeched, "Hell no. I had a cardiac emergency and you know that, Ethan." Tim cleared his throat. "Right?" Tom nodded. "I had a cardiac emergency and you know that, frump." "Again? With a frump?" Ethan scoffed. "I cleaned out my office, so let that go. But you brought the mess to the one at home." Ethan frowned at Alyssa. "You're supposed to be on my side, wife." "I always will be, when it's right," Alyssa giggled. "But you know you made a mess at home, Poppy. You know, I don't understand why you all give me such a hard time about my clutter." Everyone in the room scoffed. "It's chaos, son," Lillian insisted. "Always has been. If we didn't have help, I'd never been a doctor. I'd have been stuck at home, cleaning your bedlam." "I am not that bad," Ethan loudly countered. Matthew snorted. "Really, Mr. Metrosexual of the Millennium?" Yeah, frump," Matthew laughed. "I am the opposite of you when it comes to tidiness. I put everything away immediately, whereas you leave it out for a rainy day. I mean, your car has to be the most." "Moving on," Ethan shouted over him. I laughed as I nodded to Madison and gripped my husband's hand. "What about his car?" Thomas queried. "Has he junked it already? After only what, 3 weeks? And after waiting so long to finally buy something that's not an Abuelo mobile?" Mariah giggled, making us laugh. Matthew laughed. "It looks like he's been to every fast food restaurant in the nation and never tossed out a single container. Do you know how fast I have to eat between court appearances, Toad? Lunch is only so long, and I have to prep while I eat." "Well, from now on, you're going to have your cook prep something healthy to take with you," Tom shouted. "Fast food is off. except for vegetarian or vegan options. Damn it, what about Subway? Fine, turkey and chicken only and no bacon. Save that for the weekend. Once a week, and only 2 strips.
6, 3, 4.
Fine, Tom finally agreed. But none of your salads during the week. Healthy foods only and baked. No more fried food, unless it's an indulgence day. And you're coming to my office for a complete physical next week and a new, complete meal plan. Fine, Dr. Y. Ethan mumbled with a long face. We burst out laughing at the expression, including Joshua. I smiled, glad to see him normal and to have this over. As I knew, once everything was revealed, they would brush it over and move on, as they had always done before therapy. I loved their bond and hoped they all realized soon that there is nothing they can't confide in one another. Ooh, I murmured, rubbing my belly again. I think, wait. Yeah, that's another contraction.
Sugar?
6 minutes, Madison called. Everyone immediately jumped up and rushed to the door. Tim helped me stand, and Lisa called out that she was contacting Rob, while Russell held open the door. Lisa clapped. Looks like we're waiting to dissect Matthew's book. Good. I haven't finished it yet, Nathan confessed, checking my pulse. I just got the add-on last night. Mariah informed me that she had my purse after Mandy shouted that she'd get the elevator. Tim held my waist as I wobbled to the door. Ecstatic, my husband asked, "Want to change your bet?"
Nope.
I believe my gut over that damn sonogram. It's a girl. I'm telling you it's a boy, sweetheart. I scoffed.
Girl. Better be.
Thanks for watching. If you liked it, comment and subscribe. Or leave a winking face if you made it this far.